Hello and welcome back to the shop. I've got a nice little piece of pine here put in the vise because I want to show you a really significant plane by Stanley. I think it's a highlight, and I think everybody who not necessarily maybe has a shop, but if you're a woodworker and you go out on job sites, I would definitely suggest you have one of these planes. I've had one for over 40 years, and it's called a Stanley number 95 edge trimming block plane. It is a fantastic plane, and it does exactly what the name of it is. It's edge trimming, and it has this right angle with the bed, and the blade is skewed, and it fits beautifully in the palm of your hand this way, although I'll show you in a little bit. I have different ways of holding it depending on what I'm doing. But you can see, because this built-in right angle, it will automatically give you a perfect right angle on the edge of a board if you have the blade set properly. If you tilt the blade a little bit, it won't be square. So when you set this up, you have to test it, make sure the board is square, lock it in, and then you're good. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But I really wanted to share some information about it first. This is called a Type 1. And as you can see, it has these different logos on it. But the Type 1 has the Stanley in script logo here, and the Bodmer's patent on it here of 5/14/1912, and the arched logo, Stanley Rule and Level Company, New Britain, Connecticut, USA, here. It's got a skewed blade. You see the blade is, instead of going perpendicular to this line, it's skewed this way. So it's giving you more of a slicing action, which propels the shaving off sideways, and it gives you a beautiful smooth cut. Also, as you can see here, it's an extremely low angle blade. You see the iron is I'm not sure what the exact angle is, it might be 12 degrees, but it's extremely low, and it gives you a really nice cut on the edge, on the end grain, and on the smooth grain, on the face grain. So let me show you how this works. There are three types of this plane considered in type studies. The Type 1 is the one with the script logo and Bodmer's patent on the body. The Type 1A is the Sweetheart one of them that has the Sweetheart logo on the blade. And then the third one, which is actually considered Type 2. So you have Type 1, Type A, 1A, and Type 2. Type 2 has the notched logo here, and the number 95 here instead of Bodmer's patent, and it's got the notched logo on the iron as well. At any rate, the purpose of this is to do the edge of a board and to make it into a right angle automatically. And it functions fairly simply. This is the older one, the Type 1. You put it on your board like that. Start at the beginning of the board, and then you just slide it. Now, right here, there's a great place to put your thumb. Normally, people tend to hold a blade, like that. But this one, it's fairly comfortable if you hold it between your index finger and your thumb. And there's a little spot right here on the plane that fits nicely for this finger. Now, you could hold it if you were running it on a board sideways in the vise. You could hold it more like that and run it. But since I've got this board upright, I'm going to turn it around sideways, and you'll see how I hold it and the way that the shaving comes out. Now that's a single pass. I've gone over this a few times, so it's fairly close to flat already. There's that shaving, and if I put a square on the board, there is no light coming across there, so this board is beautifully flat to this side here, and this way as well. So the thing is, you can only consider that it will be flat to the side that this side piece is situated upon. It could be that this board is not necessarily parallel, so you can't expect it absolutely to be square on both, But if you have one reference face that you're working off of, that's enough. And that's the same case in any board. You'll never get them perpendicular to both, square to both sides, unless these two are in perfect parallel. So always pick a face side that you want to work off of to make sure that you're square to it. So that's the introduction to these two planes. And now what I want to do is I want to show you how to use them beyond just using it on a board, but also how to set it up so that it gives you a correct cut, because that can be a little tricky. Ooh, how do you like my mug? Look at this. This mug here has all these little tool things on it. It's now my favorite little shop mug. It's an old one I've had for a long time, but I found a cover for it, which I think is great. Keeps the sawdust and the shavings out of it. So let's start with this older one. This is the Type 1, and this is from 1911 to 1921. It's got the script logo that you can see, and the patent date, and the arched logo there. And this plane is made up of a few parts. There you can see the back of it. Now, we'll take it apart. You have the lever cap here, typical keyhole, that never changed, and the little knurled nut there, or bolt. And then here's your blade here, and then you have your. I should show on the blade. You see the back of it is notched, and then you have the bolt that goes through to hold it, and this is right here. I don't know. I think you can see it. Is this little piece that moves up and down, the little geared end of this adjustment, which is back here. And so as you move that up and down, it moves this geared head here forward and back, which moves your blade in and out. Pretty simple mechanism. It's got a shoulder here on the side and a shoulder here on the side, and those are fairly important, and it helps to keep your blade from moving too far out. When you put your blade in, you'll notice it has to sit into the notch. So if this is how it works going up and down. You want to make sure that when you put it in, that's all the way back. You want it into a notch that will keep it, that's all the way back, that will keep it from protruding here, particularly when you want to put it into a toolbox. So I've set it with it all the way back, and it's in the notch. And then I take this lever cap and I put this on it, and open this up until it slides freely. You don't want to force this onto it this way at all, because you could snap this piece right here. So you don't want to do that. And now why isn't that going on very well? Oh, I tightened this screw. So when you put this on, you want to make sure that this screw here is out enough that you're not putting a lot of pressure on it. So just enough that it slips on nicely, and then you can tighten this back up some, and to keep this piece fairly flat, and then just tighten this, and it's drawing this cast iron piece up against this nut or bolt or screw. There you go. So now it's sitting nicely in there. Not a lot of pressure. Don't need to crank down on it ever. There's never any need to force it. Now when I look back at this, I can see that this is out of alignment. It's not parallel to this throat here. So I want to make sure that it is. And this does not have a lateral adjustment. So this you just loosen up a little bit right here, and then you push it forward like that against this shoulder and squeeze this back down again. Now you can look down here and see that it's parallel to it, but you use it the same way you do a normal plane. You sight down the end of it to make sure what's protruding out is parallel to the sole of the plane. In this case, this part that has the holes in it is the fence, and this part is the sole. So you'll sight down the end of it and make sure that it is parallel to the sole. While you do that, you reach over here to the lever, and you can use the lever to push it to make the blade stick out more, so it's more obvious what is parallel. And then you can adjust this, loosen this a little bit, and just adjust it slightly, tighten it back up, sight again, nice and parallel, so I'm good there. Then I go to putting it on the board to test it. Now, there you see, when I go to test it, I'm getting more of a shaving on the left side than the right side. So let's put a square on that and see if that would be correct. It's always best to have a light on that side of the square shining through so that you can see any light coming through. We're going to go a couple of more passes here and see if it levels out. There you go. Now I'm getting a full shaving. So what it's done is it's taken off the high side over here and flattened this. And when I put my square on it, it is beautifully flat. So that is tuned up nicely. And you can see as I start here where it's out of square and I come down, it's taking off that side that's high. So I come back a little bit further, does the same thing, and then you see it goes to a full shaving, and that means that here is square, here is still not quite square. Come back a little bit further, same thing. It's such a skinny little shaving, and it's all from the left side. And then you see it gets wider as I go down until it gives me a full width shaving where the board is square. Come back a little further, and once again. Once I'm getting shavings that are consistently the full width of the board, and I've checked with a square, I know that this blade and this plane is set up to do work, and I can keep it exactly like that. And so I can use it from one board to another and consistently get a square or a perpendicular side edge to my face. Now, sometimes when I'm setting these up, I'll put it on there and I'll have to adjust the depth of cut, because I don't want to take, this is not a plane that you want to really use to rough out a board. You want to take finer shavings with this, and so you don't really want to take a deep cut. So a lot of times what I'll do, and I've switched to the newer plane. So this one here is the one, the Type 2, which is 1922 to 1935. So what I do is I do the same thing about sighting down to make sure I'm parallel. And this is a little proud on this side. So I take this out and I just nudge this, loosen this a little bit more. I took it out too far. I hit the lever in the back. And just slide that over a little bit and make sure that I'm parallel, not quite there. Loosen this a little more. There. Just minor pushing. Don't need to tap it with a hammer or anything. And now I'm nicely parallel. But you'll see how it wants to dig in. Immediately, the plane wants to dig into the wood. That's too extreme a cut. You don't want to do that. Or I don't. So what I do is I keep my finger up here and on the back of the plane to keep some pressure on it. I loosen this up, and then by pulling this lever down, I withdraw the blade this way, and that's just by taking this lever here and pulling it down, and now I have no cut at all, which is great. And that's where I want to start, is with no cut but parallel. Now all I have to do is squeeze this a little bit, pushing that lever up, until, loosen that a little bit, until I get a cut that I like. And all I'm doing is pushing a little bit more each time. That was a little too much. Until I start getting a nice thin shaving. Nice wispy shaving, incredibly smooth surface, works really quite nice. If you ever buy one of these, you do want to make sure that that these are square to each other, although you do have some movement in here by being able to adjust the blade, but really you want to make sure that that's square initially. Now, these two holes are important because they allow you to put a wooden fence on here. And so you can put a screw here and a screw here into a wooden fence if you want to adjust this angle. So let's say you wanted to skew it, you could put an angled fence on here that would allow you to hold the blade when you put it against there. You could change the angle of cut, and so you could wind up using it as a chamfer plane and consistently get the same bevel on a corner without having to guess at it. And that gives you a nice little bevel. And you can do the same without a fence, as I'm just doing right there to show you, just by turning the plane sideways. It's a great plane to knock off those outside sharp edges so you don't cut yourself. See how sharp it is here and here it isn't. So that's another great use for this plane. Here you see the same plane. What I did was I took the board and I turned it upright so that we're dealing with the end grain. And you can see here are some burn marks from where this was cut on a chop saw. And so it's a little bit rough here. It's not terribly out of square or anything, it wasn't, but it's a little burnt, and I can feel the ridges from the circular saw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 95 and work it down this board, and I'm not trying to go very deep at all, but you can see how fine these shavings are. This is the older one. Now this will be my true side of the board. Pick one, and if you're worried about tear out here, then you could put a second board there. Let's see how the I don't know if I had this new one set up, this newer one, but there you can see the difference. You see these burn marks starting to go out and go away. And now as I get more square, here's an area that's already been planed out pretty much, and you can see the whiter parts are the part that are still rough. And I'm not taking a terribly deep shaving as I go. And you see them, the darker part is starting to get wider as I go along. This is disappearing, these are disappearing. I should show you this shaving. This is end grain, and it's great. When it stays together like that, it means you're getting a really nice slice. So you can see that from here to here, I am almost perfectly smooth. There's a little bit of roughness there still. So, but as we go along, that will disappear. And you can see here's a little bit here still of the old and the rough. And wherever it doesn't take a shaving is where it's already a little low there. So if I were to put some sandpaper on this, it would still be sort of rough. And here you see how smooth it is. Now I want to show you another thing about this plane. Is one of the ways that I like to use it. You see I've been doing it this way. But what I want to do is I want to show you, if you turn it around this way, you can put your hand on it like this and cradle it this way, and then work it in reverse. I keep a thumb here to keep it down flat, but I like to pull it. It's almost like a Japanese style plane. Now, look at the job it did. You see all those marks are gone. And it's got a really beautiful smooth surface. Another great benefit of this plane. And keep in mind, this is end grain. So what we're doing is we're slicing against the grain. That's why we're not getting shavings like we were, because this, all the grain is going with it. But now what we're doing is we're slicing across that grain, but we're still getting a beautiful smooth surface. A real asset. So I've clamped the board down to the bench flat so I can show you how we can use these planes, planing the edge, but with the board flat, and the way you hold them. You see this has this round part here, and that fits nicely into the ball of your hand. So when I'm starting to do a board like this, if it's on a workmate or something like that, now I can put it up against there, and I can put my palm there and my finger here, and that keeps it from tilting. These fingers here, and this is the push. So it's basically working along the board like that. And I don't know that you can actually even see the shaving. Hopefully this will be better. I tilted the camera down so you can see better. Again, palm there on the round part, finger here pushing it in, gives a nice balance. My thumb is in the back here, and I need a block back there. We'll do it without it and see. Really just want you to see